Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again this evening in our second round of our webinar series for our digital equity PLN. We are so happy and excited tonight to be discussing how we can engage our staff. So, our title of our webinar tonight is Staff Engagement and Making Connections. So, if you are watching us live, feel free to live tweet while we are having our discussion. You can tag Dig Equity PLN or use the hashtag ISTI DEPLN. Always remember, if you have questions or you want to engage with us with the chat in the chat, make sure you pull down that little drop down option and click on all panelists and attendees so that we can see all of your questions and comments, and we can allow you to participate in our session tonight. So, I am your moderator, Patricia Brown. I'm also the ISTE Digital Equity PLN co chair and also a member of the ISTE Board of Directors. So, again, I want to welcome you tonight to our conversation. This is part two of our digital equity webinar series. And we have some dynamic ladies on our panel tonight. I am so excited to be joined tonight with such fabulous panelists. So, what I like to do to get us started is I just want to do a quick check in. There is a lot going on. All of us are probably over 2020. We probably could say, 2020, let's move on. But we are still here. And so we have plenty to be thankful for. So I just want to do a quick check in just to see how are you doing? What's going on in your world? And also introduce yourself and let the audience know what you do. How about Desiree? Would you like to start?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Desiree Alexander. I am the founder CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting. I also work for an educational nonprofit in North Louisiana, and I am definitely over 2020. I'm starting to get over 2021, and we haven't even gotten there yet. And that's about it. That's how my day is going. I'm over 2020.
That might be our theme for the night, over 2020. But again, we have lots to be thankful for because we are still here. There are many people who are not here with us. So we are definitely working it out and making the best of our situations. So let's continue our check in. Yaritza, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us how.
Hey everyone, I am Yaritza Villalba. I am the founder and president of YB Educational Resources, a nonprofit that's geared to helping out educators. I am also a social studies teacher at a transfer school here in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm the host of the Flipgrid series, Ask Yaritza. And like Desiree said, I'm so over 2020, so we're gonna hashtag that tonight, over 2020. I'm over it, but I am so excited to be here tonight with you all.
Yes, thank you for joining us. All right, Chanel, would you like to tell us how things are going in your world?
Hi, everybody. My name is Chanel Johnson. I am a science specialist and tech coach based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And as of 5 minutes ago, I just had my power restored in 13 hours without it. So, right in the midst of this, my power is on. All the innovation I put together to make sure that I was able to be here tonight with you all, it's just, we can just throw it out the window along with 2020. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. I'm glad your power has been restored. Thank God for that. All right, Keri.
Hi, everyone. My name is Keri Hennessey Wilson. I am currently, I have a new position called an Ed Tech Innovation Coach. After 20 years of elementary education, I'm now at the high school this year. So learning every single day. I feel like I need Rosetta Stone for high school language and scheduling, but slowly I'm just trucking on and learning new things, and I'm super excited about the new innovative projects that I'll be able to do this year. So that's pretty much what's popping. I'm in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and that's where I am.
Awesome. So we're kind of all over the place. We got the South, we got the East Coast, I'm the Midwest, Keri's, so we're East Coast. So we're all kind of in different areas of the country. But I think we all kind of have a common experience right now with dealing with this pandemic. And one of the things that we definitely have to pay very close attention to is our social and emotional needs and our wellness. So a lot of times we talk about our children. We talk about, okay, let's make sure we're meeting the social emotional needs of our kids. Let's make sure our families are taken care of. But what about us? We always say, if, when you're on an airplane, they always tell you to put the mask over your face first, so that you can make sure that you can breathe before you can help or support someone else. So I think that same thing kind of applies to us as educators. We have to take care of ourselves first. So looking at our social and emotional wellness, we've all advocated for both our staff and our students. So now more than ever, SEL is needed. So speaking in your current roles, how have you addressed social emotional needs for yourselves, for your staff, for the people that you work with? Feel free, anybody jump in. Yaritza?
Yeah, I was about to jump in. So I just think it's just important to, if we're giving everyone else energy to ask them how they're doing, sometimes it's okay to ask yourself. Like, I talk to myself, believe it or not. I'm always like, Yaritza, how are you? Like, what's going on? Are you okay? Because I realize that I have to ask myself the questions that a lot of people are not asking me. And as educators, we have this role that we feel like we're superhuman and we have to be there for everyone else. And we forget about the most important person in the room. Believe it or not, it's you, right? Because without you, first of all, the way I've always seen it is, if I'm absent, I don't expect anybody else to take over my class the way I could take over my class, right? And maybe I'm overly confident, but I just know I've built so many relationships with students that it's almost like when I'm not there, they know that no one else is going to be able to be like, yo, take your hoodie off. What are you doing? Get to this do now. How you doing? What's up? All right, I'm still mad at you from yesterday, but you still got that assignment you got to do. And sometimes, you have to just make sure that you're okay and you're energized. And if you're not, it's okay to take a break. And I think that when we think about SEL right now, I'm learning to take a break and push back and just be like, I can't do this today. And yes, maybe I could do it tomorrow. And if I can, I'll just get back to it next week. Nothing is going to happen. So I just think it's just about taking care of yourself first, because it's necessary, especially during this pandemic and during these uncertain times.
Definitely. You brought up some very good points. And I think sometimes we want to be everything to everybody, including our students. And sometimes we have to just say, you know what? I'm not answering any emails today. I am going to enjoy my family. I'm going to read a book. I'm just not going to do nothing. Whatever it is that you need to do to find your happy place or give yourself that grace. Desiree, I remember seeing recently a tweet or Facebook post that you recently made that talked about that very thing. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that and share what that's about?
Yeah, it was really a late night tweet. Usually when I sing stuff out, I sing it on like all social media because I'm branding and all that stuff. But it was just like, I was just fed up with myself, and I was here working like late at night, and I was like, oh my gosh, why? And I'm like Yaritza, like I'm constantly talking to myself. And I tell people I'm the best person to talk to, so why would I not talk to myself? So I tweeted, and I just was like, you are not open 24 hours. You're not a Circle K. You are not a convenience store. Like, shut it down. And I was kind of talking to myself, and I just tweeted it out like a little, like, it's okay. I'm just talking to myself on Twitter. And it blew up. It blew up and went everywhere, because I think a lot of people resonated with it, because we don't give ourselves the leeway that we give others. We're so much harder on ourselves than we are, with other people. And sometimes you just need to hear somebody say, sweetie, it's okay to take care of yourself. And it's more than okay, it's needed. It's more than needed, it's required, because once you break down, that's it. Like there is nothing else. So just understanding that. And one of the things I'm starting to preach is, and I love that Yaritza brought that up, is the myth of the superhero teacher, because it's a myth and it's toxic positivity. It sounds very positive, like not all heroes wear capes and we're superheroes. No, we're not superheroes. We're actually human that do rock star jobs. So it's, it's a difference between a superhero, because, and if you think about the toxic positivity of that, it makes us feel like we are not to be valued because we're supposed to work, because that's what a superhero does. They are selfless. And if you really think about it, it leads others to treat you in that way because superheroes don't get paid. Okay, superheroes don't get what they deserve. So it's really one of those things where you have to stop and think, wait, what are you really trying to say when you're putting this myth of the superhero on teachers? It allows others to treat you in ways that are not good.
Definitely. You spot on, because a lot of times we try to do and be everything. And you're right. It does sound cute to say that teachers are the superheroes. And you're absolutely right. We're setting ourselves up for like too much because people expect so much from us. And I think what we have to remember to do is give ourselves some grace. We have to say, you know what? It is okay. And don't feel bad about it because you have done so much for so many people for so long. And I think right now, that extra layer of stress. I mean, it's one thing to be virtual and be thrown into an experience that maybe you've never had before as a teacher. It's another thing for you to also have a bunch of eyes and a bunch of ears. If you're teaching virtually, you're not just teaching to that first grader, that second grader. You're teaching probably to the whole family because they're all listening in, they're all hearing what's going on, they're getting a perspective of your classroom. And so that can be a bit intimidating for some teachers. And that judgment piece comes into play. And so you feel like you have to overcompensate and do more and more and more and more. And I also think it adds another layer to this whole social emotional needs and wellness is when you also have children, that your own personal children, that you are trying to work your position in whatever role you are in, but also be supportive of your own children. I know Chanel does a phenomenal job of balancing those two. She has a whole classroom in her home that she provides this space for her children to stay academically sound, to be able to be supportive. And I think y'all might have a space where you're in your office and then they're in their classroom and they have the space. So speak a little bit about the experience of having to be a parent and an educator in this pandemic. And what are you doing to provide that wellness piece for yourself? I know one thing that you're doing, and you're running. I see you running in the morning. So that's one way that you're relieving that stress. But tell us a little bit more about what you got going on there.
Well, like you mentioned, we have a classroom, and at first, that was the place where they did their work. The dry erase board is in there, the manipulatives, their books, anything that they could possibly need, it is there, so that we're not missing a beat with school. And they know when we're in this space, we're here to learn. But when my husband started working from home, he needed our other office space. So now I have a teacher's desk in the classroom where I also work. So going back to the superhero situation, where in the beginning I was trying to work at the same time, support them at the same time, and I realized I couldn't do both at the same time. And I have a whole husband here who is also working just like me, who can also help. And I just asked, hey, I need you. Can you help? So he added extra desks in his office. So when I have very important meetings where I can't support, he takes that lift, and it's humbling for him because he really gets to see the work of an educator. He gets to see the work that I've been putting in with them. So that has been helpful, being able to just say, I need help, which is another thing with social emotional learning. Sometimes we don't even admit when we need help. So I've been doing that. Other things that I've been doing with managing, like Patricia said, I've been running, whether it's in the morning or in the afternoon. And now that we're going through a shift in season, so I have to get my timing back right. But running has been helpful with my music, so I can get a clear head, get a clear space of what my day is going to be like, so that I can have positive energy when I come back, because we're holding on to so much. And another thing that I want to add that I'm also doing that's really helping me, and I've actually been doing this for 7 years now, is journaling. I have a journal on my phone called Day One app. It is free and you can password protect it. So anytime I'm in a space where I just need to type or write, I do it right there. And taking pictures of what I'm feeling. And the good thing is you can go back to things that you wrote years ago to, one, see your growth, see where you were, see where you are now. And it started off as a temporary thing 7 years ago, and now here we are. So that's really been helping me to get in tune with myself and my needs, and not feeling guilty about it. It's a lot going on.
Definitely. Those are that you dropped a lot of great gems. I love the journaling aspect. Sometimes I use Facebook as my journal because I love seeing those the memories that pop up. And you're like 5 years ago you were thinking this, and it kind of gives puts things in perspective for sure. So I think that's a great way to kind of put your thoughts out there, reflect. I love the fact of listening to music in the morning to kind of get your mind in a certain vibe, and whatever your music choice is. I mean, I think that's important, but giving yourself some opportunity sounds to me like you give yourself some personal time, but you also are there to support your kids. And I love the fact that you said ask for help. I think that was critical because we want to do everything and think that we have the answers to everything. I'll admit I'm a fixer. Okay, you got a problem. Okay, let me give you 5 solutions. Let me fix it. Okay, this is what you can do. And I had to realize that I cannot fix everything. And especially in this pandemic, this has like thrown everyone for a loop. And so we're just trying to figure it out. But Keri, I wanted to have you jump in as well and kind of talk about, you've talked about some great things that you're doing. We're going to jump into the question about the staff, but even just for you personally, how are you? You're in a new building, new position, new role. I know that's a level of maybe a little anxiety or stress there. So what are you doing to kind of give yourself that space, that chill space?
Feel like I've like for the first time, which is I'm super type A and a little bit alpha female in a good way, not like an aggressive way, in a tough love way, I'll say. So I think what March, even though we were in quarantine and everyone, it was like negative and like things were happening, I think what March to June for me helped me get to where I am now, because literally I stayed in a hoodie and in sweatpants and some leggings maybe a hat. I even had some turbans thrown in there like the whole entire time. And I literally was probably working like 14, 15-hour days. Like it was nonstop because I didn't put boundaries in. So, like where to the point when it got to June, like I was exhausted. And like there was no summer. Like even though we were still in quarantine, I wasn't going to the beach. I wasn't going anywhere. There was no sun touched up on the skin. I was just in the house. I was tired. And literally it pushed me to a place where like I was like, you know what, like I can't do this. I have 3 kids at home, like I'm teaching, they're all at so everyone, like I loved how Chanel said you have to ask for help. I'm not good at asking for help. I'd rather and that's where the type A comes in. I want to do it my way because I know it'll be done the way that I want it to be done. So like learning that it doesn't have to be done my way and being okay with however you get the help to help you out. So so now with this new position, I think it enabled me, like I'm in a new building where I know some of the people, they know of me, but they don't know me. So it allowed me to kind of start fresh where I'm not giving my phone number to everyone. Like I even like prefaced, they were like, well, can I have your cell phone? I'm like, well, are you going to be driving me crazy? So like, like I kind of was like, I had to put the boundaries right then and there. Like, I don't mind, but let me just let you know, if you're driving me absolutely crazy, I will block you. And then you just have to send me an email. Like I put those boundaries up. So it allowed me to be able to work in a progressive way where it wasn't hindering me. Because if you're doing too much, you're forgetting things, you're not working to your full potential, it's not allowing you to have a creative space. It just causes you stress and negativity, and then you're in a toxic place around you that you're in a toxic bubble basically that you created. So I think that's what March to June has enabled me to be better. I'm still at an observation period, but I think it's going to enable me to do some fantastic things. And even though we're still, we're in a hybrid learning environment in my school district, but I see the potential opportunities that the virtual space has enabled, or at least in my district where we weren't super heavy on the digital tools. I think it's giving everyone, refreshing everyone's digital toolkit to be able to allow super things to come. So I'm super excited to see what's going to happen.
I'm excited to hear about the things that you're going to be doing in your school, in your district. And you brought up some great points about, you know what, just setting those boundaries. And you just said, are you going to drive me crazy? If so, I'm not giving you a number. And I mean, that may sound harsh to some people, but they have to understand, like I had a couple posts on social media saying, check on your tech ed people. We are not okay. And this was like in the midst of, the summers, and I am with you. Like I did not have a summer. So I made a decision for Labor Day. I was like, I have something I'm working towards. And so a few girlfriends of mine, we were like, you know what, we're going to the Smoky Mountains and we're just going to go there and I'm not going to do any work. And it was just something that I said, I am going to do regardless of what's going on at work. I'm just going to set that time. So I set that boundary and said, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. So that's super important. We have a couple comments in the chat just saying that, she says, Stephanie says, we almost overcompensate to make ourselves too available. And I think that is so true, that we want to help so much. And I think for me, and it probably is the same for all of you, we've been doing this work for a while. We've been doing this tech work. We've been social emotional needing for people and all of that, and being that everything. And then now it's like they need us and we're like, yes, you need me. Okay, what can I do? I've been trying to get you on my team for this. I'm trying to get you tech savvy. I've been trying. Okay, you want to do it? Okay. And then we do so much and give so much that we have a hard time supporting ourselves and making sure that we're okay. So we're getting it. We're getting it. All right, so let's pivot a little bit and talk a little bit about PD. I hate the term professional development because people always have the negative, another PD day. I always say professional learning or, a learning opportunity or something like that, because I think it's so much negativity that goes around. I think we can be overly professional development. We can be professional development out. There's always a new initiative. There's always a new strategy. So I'm wondering right now, I feel like in my district specifically, there's a great need for a lot of PD around, just this virtual learning aspect for teachers who are just figuring out how to teach remotely and in person at the same time. That's happening now. So what are some things that you have found some creative opportunities to help with this intense PD that we need? What are some of your wins? What are some things that you all have done that has been just phenomenal for your staff? I'll share one thing. Like we actually developed a website of videos and tutorials, and I didn't know if people were really paying attention, but ironically, I was helping out at a school today and I had 3 people come up to me and say, thank you so much for those tutorials that you posted. I was able to go back and watch them and they were so helpful. And I'm like, oh, you did? You watched them? Thank you. So sometimes you don't even realize how you are helping and supporting someone. It took me hours to put that together. But if I know that I can help or support a teacher and if they feel comfortable and better about what they're doing with their students, I'm all for it. So what are some things that you guys have done that have been wins for you? Chanel?
Yes, ma'am. So to start us off, I recently transitioned to a new district. I was in my old district for 12 years, my entire educational career. So, that's home. And I transitioned to a new home. And we're virtual. So the question that I had to ask myself, how can I connect with teachers in a virtual space? I don't know these teachers, they don't know me. How do I get them to trust me in this virtual space? So, and not doing the same old typical PD. So one of the things that I've developed is called science chats on Tuesdays. The science chats are done after hours. So for my elementary teachers, it's from 3:30 to 4:30 on Tuesdays. And they're welcome, any teacher, anytime, you're welcome to drop in. And we can talk about anything. And I've been using Mentimeter where I can ask the teachers, what do you want to talk about? What do you need? And we'll all vote on the topics we're going to talk about. Sometimes it can go from, hey, can you just explain the science? Can you explain what you're saying in this unit? Or it can go to a Nearpod training or a Flipgrid training, all in the name of integrating science and technology. So every week it is something new. And in the beginning, it was a few teachers, then it started to grow. So now more teachers are learning who I am, I'm learning who they are, and I'm able to support them in a place that they choose to come to. So this is all optional. And that part is what was very meaningful to me, because the word has got around. She's helping us. She's listening to our needs and she's addressing it right now. So that's been helpful. Another thing that I've been doing with some of our units, I've made little YouTube videos doing an internalization protocol of the units. Basically, I'm doing a deep dive of what you should be teaching, what does this mean, giving them little tech strategies in between the curriculum so that they can use those units right now. And once I made those little YouTube videos and shared them out with the teachers, I also added an assessment form at the end so I can see, did you understand? And if you didn't, then I know how to use the data to support those teachers. So I've been very creative with that, and it's been a win for me so far.
That sounds like a win. I love the fact that you are giving your staff options and saying, what do you all want to talk about? Because for so many years and for so long, we've been mandated to have specific PD on specific topics, and we don't always get a choice. We always talk about giving our kids choices and what they learn and how they present information or how we assess them or how we evaluate them. But a lot of times our staff, we're just told, hey, you got to go to this workshop or you go to this training or you do this PD, you got to learn this. But I love the fact that you make it open. And because of that, you're seeing the growth. You're seeing people want to be a part of this and want to join you in your PD sessions, and you make it light and fun with the Mentimeter. And I'm sure you throw some Flipgrid in there too, because that's your jam. Flipgrid is your jam, but it's definitely a way to engage your staff in a positive way. So they're not looking at it like, oh, it's another task that I have to do, another workshop, another session. And they're really into it if they're doing it on their own time. So that makes it really cool. Anybody else? What are some things that are wins for you during this pandemic?
So on my end, I feel like the losses became a win. I work at a school, and Patricia and Chanel, you were just, discussing the fact that, you gave staff options and then they bought into it. And it was almost like, well, you chose this. At my school, teachers always get options. And sometimes the problem with giving teachers so many options is just everybody wants to do whatever they want to do. And I feel like, in working at my school, our school was founded in 7 years ago. And for 7 years, I feel like teachers just get to do whatever they want to do. And so for the past 4 years, I was responsible for teacher PD. And I felt like, because teachers had the options of, this is what I want to do or I don't want to do, and there was no follow through, it all just like crumbled. I feel like I was working so hard during the school year. And then by the time the end of the year came, it was like, well, what did I really do besides have meetings, make sure my agendas was typed up? If the superintendent did a walkthrough, I was the one talking about what teachers had to do and what data looked like. And so I found myself actually doing more work than most of the teachers at that school. And then this summer, once the pandemic hit, March, I was just like, I can't do it anymore for my school. I know there's people out there that's going to be so appreciative of not only my strategies, but the fact that they're free. I'm willing to share. And so that's exactly what I did. This summer, I created 3 sessions, 3 webinars, one on SEL, one on student engagement, and one on parent engagement. And I opened it up to the world. And it was the best 3 sessions that I've had in 7 years. So it actually made me think about I don't want to quite just, end all of my sharing with the school. So I share with admin or to some teachers who want to hear what I have to say. But now I have the platform where I can share it with everyone. And I'm saying, well, okay, you want to work? Let's do this workshop together. If you don't, okay, I'll help you this way. All right, you want a worksheet? How about I show you how to make this digital? So I feel like, the losses definitely became a win this year. So yes, I'm over 2020, but then I also have to say, thank God for some of the things that has happened, because I was able to sit back, reflect, and know this isn't for me. And maybe the school isn't for me anymore, because I've grown so much and I'm learning so much about people and their ways. And, sometimes you got to take everything and just take it as is. I'm not upset, but I'm saying, there are some things that I want to share with the world. And that's honestly what I've been doing. So PDs for everybody. You get a PD, you get a PD, you get a PD. Everybody gets a PD.
I love that. Definitely. Oh my goodness. So true. Sometimes you don't feel appreciated and you don't feel like people value what you do. And then you get a fresh set of ears, people listening or hearing what you're providing, and it just sparks a new, just feeling. You're like, okay, what I'm doing does matter. What I'm doing is important. People want to hear what I have to hear. So you have to have the right people listening to you. And if those folks aren't the ones that are nearby, there are people out there that definitely, you saw that with the webinars that you threw out there, because what you are providing is valuable. And maybe they don't get it right away and they don't understand why they need to know this at that time. I feel like that with emails. When I send out an email with information, sometimes people don't read it, but when they need it, they're looking for it. So I think that that's what's important, is like you still have it available, and when they need it and when they are looking for it, it is available for them. So I think kudos to you for stepping out and creating creating that space for other educators outside of your 4 walls of your building, and supporting them during this pandemic, because I know they really appreciate it and they need it. And I think that also helped you. It boosted your confidence too. All right. So what else? What else?
Can I would like to add a little bit to that, if I may. So during the pandemic, when everyone was kind of thrown into this digital world, that some people, like in our school, which was pre-K to 5, only the 3rd through 5th grade were really using Google Classroom, and then pre-K to 2 was using Seesaw, but they weren't really using it completely as a learning management system, like, partially. So everyone was thrown into this. So we were trying to figure out ways, like, how can we get PD to, like, how do we work smarter rather than harder? Like, okay, so Patricia needs help and Yaritza needs help, but they both need the same thing. I shouldn't have to repeat it twice. So what we started doing was weekly, we would have PDs. Well, we'll call them learning. It was more like PLC, I'll say that. So it was like a learning community, and 3 times a week, we did those learning opportunities, and we chose topics. So we did a poll in the Google Classroom, because we had one for the school, of topics that people needed, like things that they needed to learn. So whether it was like Google Sheets, whether it was like, what is Google Drive? They weren't understanding like the difference between like the folders and the files. So like we started doing these like 3 times a week, and then also throwing in it the SEL opportunities through a group that was in our district. So we were giving them like Mindful Tuesdays. And then on Fridays, we were also having opportunities for them to do, like, we had karaoke, virtual karaoke, and like, housekeeping and garden. So we had something every single day for them. So whether it was academic and you were getting, like, let's say training, but we were like feeding the soul too. But the best thing about it was that I created it in sheets for those. Some teachers weren't able to come. So we recorded all of the sessions, and then also we put threw those in there, and then we also threw the resources in there. So we archived everything and kind of create a library, which also, this was my school because I'm only one school. People in other schools were like, can I join? Can I have access to that document so they can have those recorded sessions? So they were able to also get that learning opportunity too, which I think was really super valuable. And people were really, really excited to learn, which was like, to me, like, you know, you're kind of like, you never see anyone get excited over I get excited over PD. I do. Like it, I get excited over, but a lot of people don't get excited about, but people wanted the information, they wanted to learn because they wanted to do, to take their students to next level. So that was super exciting during that time. And I think it created a foundation now for this school year.
Definitely. I'm with you, Yaritza, too. I want to go to your PD. I want to be excited. I know one of the things that works really well for drawing people into PD is providing food, snacks, treats. So whenever I would do lunch and learns, I would do things like a hot chocolate bar, or I would do cookies and milk, or I would do just a variety of different things. Popcorn, I did a popcorn bar one time, but it's just like just that little extra little something to draw people into what you're going to get it. And then when they get there, you're like, I got you. All right. So this is what I want to teach you. This is what I want to show you. So it's definitely important to find those little things. And I love what you said about just meeting something about the soul. Like, can you tell me again what you said, Keri?
Feeding people's soul.
Feeding people's soul. That's it. I mean, that is super important. That goes along with everything that we've been talking about, because it's not just about PD and learning, but feeding that soul, those emotional needs that we have as educators. I think for so long we put on that like mask. Well, we're literally wearing masks now, but we were put on a mask where we're dealing with certain things internally that affect how we move and work every day. But we have to put that on. And sometimes it gets to be too much. I've had many a times where, it was just that one thing that took me over the edge. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I can't take it anymore. So just having those opportunities where you are feeding the soul, I love that, as well as feeding that mind. So I love that. Desiree, did you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, I think all the comments have been just amazing. But so for me, not being in one school district anymore, I know one of the things when Yaritza was talking, one of the things I remembered is Ken Shelton. One of the first times I heard Ken speak, he said something that really resonated with me because I was in a district that was garbage. And he said, you're not an expert until you get a certain amount of miles away from wherever you are. And I was like, yes, okay, that's why this is happening. So when she said that, I was like, yes, it's just true sometimes that, people really don't value what you have until you go away from where you are. And I was like, yeah, okay, great. And that's why I got away from them. So, and kind of created my own thing. And one of the things that I have found during this pandemic with PD, a couple of things. One is you have to give them bite-sized PD, because not everyone can sit for an hour to watch something. Not everyone can sit for 30 minutes to watch something. So I started my 5-minute tips kind of right before the pandemic. And it's just 5 minutes, like, hey, you want to know about how to do this one thing in Google? There you go. And it's just to the point. I think we've all watched videos where it's like, can you get to the point? So it's to the point. Here you go. Click here. Bye. Have a good life. And people have really responded well to that. Like, I just need to know this one thing. So that has taught me a lot. Also, how to schedule PD. So like, I just did a session today and someone was appreciative because I scheduled the tech tools within the confines of a lesson plan. Like, these are the tools for bell ringers. These are the tools for direct instruction. These are the tools. So just learning how to structure to where it makes sense. I don't think we're in the space anymore to just be like, ping, 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 just like random tech tools and throwing them at people. So we have to we have to come correct. It makes us grow as professional development givers, because we have to, like, we can't just do the same old, same old. We have to grow and really give people what they need in concise, chunks and ways. So I do agree with what everyone said, that it made me grow. 2020 definitely made me grow in the professional development space and actually give people what they need when they need it. And last thing is, because of my role as someone running a company, my big thing was I want to give other educators opportunities to grow as well. So with like people come and do guest webinars for me every month. So I'm like, there's enough space in this ed tech field for everyone to grow and be successful. And that, I kind of took that upon myself, not to say other people aren't doing it, but I took it upon myself to make sure to be one of those people that build educators up for them to see their work, so they're not sitting there in places dying.
Oh, such powerful, powerful information. And I am so with you when you talk about giving bite-sized um, information out to staff, because they are completely overwhelmed with what's out there. Think about when the pandemic hit, how many companies were like, free tools, free tools, free tools to every single district. And what you made a great point about how you embedded those tools within that lesson plan, because pedagogy comes first. Strategies, instructional strategies come first, because guess what? The very first day school started in our district, Zoom crashed. So what do? You know what I'm saying? So what do you do when those tools don't work? I always tell my teachers to have options. Yeah, you might love Loom to do your videos, but what happens when Loom is no longer free anymore? What happens when it doesn't work that day? Do you have other options? Do you have other ways that you're able to provide that instruction to your students? So I think it's super important that we look at not just those tools, and because like I said, tool is a tool. It's not going to give us everything. That there's not one tool that does everything. We have to have options and multiple things. So it's super important that we do those bite sizes. And it made me think about how when I was doing some PD and I had maybe an hour webinar or an hour session, what I did was I broke up my webinar into segments, and I just created a Google Doc, and I made like a little table, and I said this, so 3 minutes and then I just, maybe this topic was about how to create a PDF from such and such. So then I might have that little snippet, and it was 1 minute. I would cut, edit, put that 1 minute little piece there. So each topic, they know exactly what they're looking for. So they can go back and they can look at that video, but only find the actual things that they need. So I think that's super important, making it accessible, making it valuable, making it simple enough that they can just go to it and find it, have it in a centralized place. Those are all great strategies to PD. And I think that's what's helping us win right now, because we get it. Okay. All right. So we're talking a lot about this pandemic and how we've had to make pivots and shifts and moves, and we're all just trying to figure all this out. So we have to be fluid and flexible. And if anybody is in education and you're not fluid and flexible, you are struggling right now, right? You are struggling, because that is definitely important. And as someone pointed out in the chat, you got to have a plan B. You might need a C, D, E, F, and G, all the way down to Z at this point. But we have to make adjustments. So looking at our normal daily lives, I don't know about you, but the structure of our days are different. Our schedules are different in the buildings, virtually. So how has that influenced how you have integrated curriculum into your lessons? I'm just going to point this one thing out. One of the things that is one of my biggest pet peeves that I've been hearing recently when this pandemic hit is how to teach the same thing that you've been teaching in person virtually. It's impossible. You can't do it. You have to change it up. You have to do something a little bit different. It's not going to be the same. And you have to be okay with that and figure out a way to still get your curriculum out there and across to your students, but maybe you're going to be doing it in a different way. Even when we go back into the schools, because my district is back in schools, and a lot of the things that our teachers were used to doing, small groups, collaborative work, that's kind of hard to do right now because you got to have your mask on and you got to be behind this plexiglass plate. So it's so cute. Some of the kids are like reaching over the plexiglass to talk to them because they don't realize that it's just plastic. You can talk through the plastic, but the kids are adjusting and they're figuring out. So what are some ways, or how has all of this influenced how you've approached that integration of curriculum? We're talking about pedagogy, we're talking about tools, we're talking about just curriculum in general. What has been your approach? What has worked for you guys?
Alrighty.
I knew Chanel was gonna jump in.
I didn't want to. It's all good.
Curriculum is your thing, and you've been doing a great job at it. So,
Thank
I want to hear from you.
Well, the first thing that always comes to mind, and this is something that my state superintendent said right when the pandemic hit: compassion over compliance. Anything that I do, any expectations that I have for my teachers, always have compassion versus compliance. And when that energy is passed from, I guess, district level, from administrator to their teachers, that same energy is also passed to the students. So throwing a little science in here: energy can't be created nor destroyed, simply transferred. What type of energy are you transferring? So I go with that mindset. So to the point, one of the curriculum is my baby. That is my passion, and I always start there. So it was always a little backwards for me, I guess, that I was never an ed tech coach. I was a curriculum person. I was a math and science teacher who loved technology, who loved to integrate technology, who loved to integrate pedagogy into the content. So that has always been my work. And I know that there are times where I even get the misconception that I'm a tech coach, and is at a point now where I don't even correct it anymore. I am whatever you want me to be. I will help you in wherever you want me to help you in. So going to that point, I always stick with what the expectation of the standard. What tool is going to best support that standard? Does that, if I'm using a tool that's going to take me too far left from what the expectations of that standard is, or what the students need to be able to do, then we need to leave that particular tool alone for right now. There's a time and a place for this tool. Maybe it's not right now, and that's okay. And making sure that we are using tools at its best. So for example, not to put anyone out there, just different observations that I've seen, where I've seen teachers still using Nearpod as a PowerPoint, then use PowerPoint. If that's the intent of the tool and that's what you need, because Nearpod is a million more than that. So making sure that teachers, one, does the task align to the standard? Two, are you using the tool appropriately to meet the demands of the standard or the rigor of the standard? So I know I sound real curriculum and weird, but that's what I love.
You are spot on, Chanel, for real, because that is super important. Nearpod costs a lot of money. And if you're just using it, like you said, to just drop a PowerPoint and push it out to kids, I think your district might want to just go ahead and save those dollars so that they're not just utilizing for that. Same thing happens with Seesaw and some of the other programs. I think Keri mentioned earlier, like when you're not utilizing it to its full potential, that's just like for me with iPads. If all you're going to do with the iPad is put them on a math app or put them on, some reading app or reading a book, I mean, that's not utilizing that resource to its full potential. And there's so much you can do with that. Let's kind of pivot a little bit. I want to see if anybody has anything, just talking about being creative with our curriculum and with how we're presenting our information to our students. Anybody have any highlights of how, or some tool, or not some tools, but some strategies or techniques that have worked pretty well? I mean, we're in Zoom, and if I hear one more educator on social media complain about the kid not turning on their camera, I'm going to scream because I think there are lots of ways to engage our students, and we may not understand or know why that kid does not have their camera on, but how else can we engage with our kids? So anybody have any like quick tips or ways that they've been really creative with engaging the kids with the curriculum since this virtual pandemic has happened, or even in person?
So I'll say something. So, I love that you guys touched on standards because I think so. I was able to create my own curriculum, right? And the way I've always seen it was when I started teaching 11 years ago, they handed me a binder and it was just like, look, you're going to follow this, you're going to be great. And when I read it, I was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm not asking my kids this question. This is boring. Y'all been made this up. It's not for me, right? So I came in already saying, I'm not doing this. I'm so sorry. We're not reading that book because, first of all, I couldn't understand or go past the first page. So, how do I expect my students to do it? So, I already came in saying no, no, no. But as educators, we also have to understand that a standard is supposed to be the base, right? Which means read it, take it in, take it apart, and then remodel it or redesign it for your students. So, in regards to like being creative with the curriculum, I know in the chat, Anna, you was talking about Nearpod and Flipgrid. As you can see, I love Flipgrid. I use it for everything and not just because I have my own show with them. But Patricia, you said it. If you hear another person saying to a kid, you have to put your camera on, that is a problem. When we're talking about culture responsive teaching, when we're talking about getting to know your students, the first thing that we have to acknowledge is that sometimes people don't want you all in their business, right? And the same way adults don't want it, the kids don't want it. And honestly, if they have their cameras off, it's not because they're being disrespectful or rude. It's because they honestly maybe just don't want you in their homes, or hello, they probably not home, right? You never know someone's real situation. You never know what they went through the night before. And so it's okay if the camera's not on. Trust me, you recorded the lesson. They'll see it later if they're not paying attention right now. I think we have to stop taking everything so personal. So I mentioned Nearpod, and the reason why I mentioned it is because I used Nearpod before as a gallery walk, right? So we've all done gallery walks before, but I think that sometimes teachers see Nearpod and they love the fact that some of the content is already there for you and things are already made. Oh, I'm so like, and don't judge me, y'all, but I'm so against stuff that's already pre-made because I have students who are already in like their 5th, 6th, 7th year of high school. I said it. So that means they did this already. So whatever you've seen online, they did it. They done Googled the answers. I need to create different possibilities and activities that would connect with my students, even if they don't do it on time, right? Eventually they'll get to it. So with Nearpod, what I would have kids do is they'll do a project. So like I had kids do a superheroes project where they gave, historical figures like Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, you name it, they did it, right? They give them a superpower linked with a comic book character. And the idea is changing continuity, right? So they would basically say, if I gave this person this superpower, things would be totally different in 2020, but how? What would that person have done, right? If Malcolm X was a mind reader, he would know that he was going to get assassinated, right? So even though technically, if you look at it, he did know, right? Anyway, so moving on, just giving kids that option of playing around with the things that they love, like comic books and superheroes, right? With things that they find boring, like history. And so the kids did the presentations. We app smashed it. So some of them made it on Storyboard That, which I love. If you have kids that want to be creative and you want them to use things that's free, Storyboard That, Powtoon, Adobe Spark, right? And they create their little iMovie. I love iMovie. They create their videos, they upload it to Flipgrid. And then what I would do is I would post questions on Nearpod. And when we're on Google Meets or like you guys said, Zoom, you're sharing your screen. And as kids are also presenting, you have it where their classmates are putting different notes. So it's positive feedback, right? So you're seeing it in real time. What I've also done is I've used Flipgrid and I created mixtapes. And what I would do is I would send out the mixtapes to parents. Because guess what? You want to know if your baby is doing good, right? But also if they're not, you're able to see other examples. So now you're able to say, okay, well, I saw how she did that. Let me at least help you. And then I've also used Flipgrid for parent engagement where I've actually had parents do Flipgrid activities. It's my way of even doing, one-on-one conversations with them. I've done speed dating on Flipgrid. possibilities are endless, but sometimes we have to be very much more creative than we were when we were in the classroom. And I'm in the classroom currently, but I have virtual kids and I have face-to-face students. So I have both, but still Flipgrid, because guess what? When you don't make it to school, I know you're still able to see that grid. And I know that you're still able to see the video that I posted of me smiling and laughing. And yes, I play Pop Smoke in the background. I play Southside Pay, you name it, whatever I'm feeling like, Keith Sweat, we playing it. And I'm telling you, I'm doing my video. I'm acting crazy. I did a Mary J. Blige video for them when I had the sunglasses on, the fake fur. And I know they were probably laughing, but I was like, all right, it's a talent share. Now, what's your talent? So we have to also just get out of our own comfort zone. And that's what I think a creative curriculum is. You could still align it with standards, but we also have to acknowledge that you have to break apart those standards. Those standards were not created for my students at all. They were not created with students of color in mind at all. And think about just how long ago they were created. Even a Common Core, I feel like, who created this? It wasn't my students in mind. So yes, we could be creative with the curriculum.
Definitely. And what you talk about is cultural relevance. You know, you're making it relevant for your kids. And I guarantee you, 15, 20 years from now, they're going to remember when their teacher dressed up like Mary J. Blige and did that lesson. They're going to remember that. That is memorable. So we have to really meet our kids where they are. And you're absolutely right. We do not know what's going on in our homes. And I say it over and over again with every webinar that we have. We have to give our families grace. We have to support them. We have to know that everybody is experiencing this right now. It's not just a certain group of people or a certain region of the country or the world. Everybody is experiencing this right now and experiencing it differently. So we have to figure out how we can support, how we can still meet the needs of our kids, not be so rigorous and not and say we're going to do, you have to be on it, this do, you know, we can't do that because we do not know what people are dealing with. And a lot of times our children don't tell us. They you may think everything is great at their home and their life is okay, but they may be truly suffering. And so we have to definitely make sure to give our students grace. And that includes not hounding them about turning on their cameras. What do you do when you're in school, in class, and they have their head down? I mean, how do you engage with that? You know, it's like, it's the same thing. You gotta, you meet the kid where they are, find out what's going on, try to be supportive as you can, and, you know, don't harbor on it. So we're coming to an end, and this has been an amazing conversation. I know our attendees have gotten a lot of nuggets, a lot of things out of this conversation. I know I have, and it has been a pleasure moderating this chat. So I just want to give you guys maybe 1 minute to give your final thoughts or any final advice that you want to give to our attendees or our audience, just to kind of lift them up in these hopefully last few months of this pandemic. Well, we're in November. Hopefully maybe December it's just gonna go away. Wishful thinking. But no, how can we, what nuggets, final thought that you want to have for our audience to kind of wrap our conversation up tonight? Keri, anything?
I would say, I think my motto lately is work smarter rather than harder. And you don't have to do everything. Like, to me, choose your tool that you love the most and use that as authentically and meaningful, connected to standards and curriculum. And know that you're doing well, even if someone's not telling you. Like, everyone is working as hard as they possibly can, and don't feel overwhelmed by those who, you know, have Bitmoji classrooms and lockers, and, you know, everything is designed to the nines in the classroom. Know that you're doing well in whatever you do in your way.
Love that.
I'll jump in after Keri.
Oh, sorry, Desiree. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I'll jump in after Keri and just say that, kind of saying what she said, like, just make sure to take care of yourself and to know that, give up that perceived control that we have over the classroom, just because a student's on camera and is looking in your face does not mean they're paying attention or that they're engaged. So give up that perceived control that we have, take the ego out of education. I think if we can get the ego out of education, we will be so much more better. So much more better. Yep, that's okay. I'll go with that. And the last thing is about tech tools. Use the WHO system, and that is what tool, how to use it, and what's the outcome of the tool. If you can't answer those three things, why are you using it?
Awesome.
I would say just don't be discouraged. Take the same advice you give the students. If you fail today, there's always tomorrow. And if you fail tomorrow, there's always the next day. There's no such thing as being perfect. And I think that, sometimes we have admin on our backs and they expect us to just be everything. And administrators forget that they were teachers at one point, right? And at one point, they needed that extra help. And so what I would say is if it's not going good today, it's okay to say, all right, y'all, the period is over. Go get some cereal, go chill, go lay down, go listen to some music because I'm leaving online right now. It's okay to take a break and it's okay to acknowledge when things are just not going fine. Earlier I had a PD and my technology was out of loop when I was in my classroom and I was just like, okay, I'll go to the next computer. I can't stress it because guess what? No one else is going to stress it with you. So it's okay to just take some breaks and just take the same advice we give our students.
Final thoughts, Chanel?
Yes. Again, compassion over compliance. I can't say that enough times that, be compassionate. Your students may not turn the work in on time the way you want them. They might not do it correctly. They might not meet the expectations you have, but just have compassion. There's so much going on. And another thing, don't assume because if a parent isn't sitting there next to the child that they're not involved. So just know that they're doing the best that they can, and take an opportunity to establish relationships with these parents. Now that we are closer, even though we're further away, establish relationships if you haven't already, because that's what's going to get us through these positive relationships.
And that's all to be said at this point. You all have said it all. Thank you so much for participating as a panelist in our webinar tonight. Phenomenal information that has been given out. I think people will go back and watch this again and take more notes because it was just so much that you all gave. So thank you so much. To our attendees, thank you so much for participating and attending our webinar, third series of our webinar. Just a reminder, we will have another webinar on November the 12th coming up. And we're going to dive in even deeper with some of the issues and the barriers that have come up due to the pandemic as it relates to digital equity. So be on the lookout for our information to sign up, to register very soon. We're going to have another dynamic panel of educators. I don't know if we could top tonight though, because the ladies rocked the house tonight. We held it down. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.